Hello, thanks for joining me. So today I want to do some talking about the games that I've been playing. SegaCDUniverse, really cool guy. Check out his channel if you haven't. I'll put a link to it below. He just left a comment, just really innocent. He was just wondering if I'd been playing some of the games that I posted a video about a little while back for the Vita, Seal No Surge, and I actually haven't. But it got me thinking about what I have been playing, and sometimes I feel like I'm not really playing a lot of games just because there are so many games that I want to play. But I do get around to playing some, and I think what I've been doing recently is more stuff that actually came out in the West. And I think that's more of an artifact of like us actually getting some cool games recently. I don't know why it took like the entire, there have been plenty of good games that have come out, in the past, but it just sort of seems like here towards the end of this console generation, for some reason suddenly we're getting like cool stuff in particular. It's a little weird, but anyway, so one of the things I want to talk about in particular is Virtue's Last Reward. I beat this game all the way. In fact, I'm thinking about getting a platinum trophy on it. Basically the only things I have left I can think of offhand for the platinum trophy is going through and getting all of the files, and just sort of it forces you to complete the puzzles in their most complete form, which is pretty cool. The puzzles are quite challenging, but essentially this game it's kind of a combination. I don't want to call it a visual novel really, because I don't think it's sort of strictly fits the definition of visual novel, but it has novel portions. That's actually what they call it. There's novel portions and there's game portions. So this is essentially like reading a book. It's got that sort of digital comic kind of thing going on where it's you're reading a story, and then in between that there are puzzle segments, and both of them are quite well done. And this is not entirely what I was expecting either, but after having beaten the game completely, I cleared all the routes. It was very good, and I really recommend it. If you have seen it or heard about the premise, or if you hear about the premise now when I describe it to you, and it sounds interesting to you at all, then just buy it and play it, because you'll enjoy it. I mean, it would be worth purchasing a Vita for just to play. This is available on the 3DS if you have one of those, and you don't want to buy a whole system just to play it. It is available on multiple systems, but a very cool game. So I'll kind of set talk about the premise like this briefly. Think of it kind of like the Saw movies. So I have to like the Saw movies, but think of it like you have a bunch of people, and I think it's 9 people again, like in the, well actually no, it might be, yeah, I guess it is 9 people. They are trapped in this facility, and the way it starts is you kind of like wake up in a room. You don't know how you got there. You don't really remember what happened, other than it seemed you were like drugged and kidnapped, and there's this girl there. So you and her have to figure out how to get out of this room, or you're gonna die. Like it's supposedly an elevator, and if you don't get out in time, it'll fall and you'll both die. So there's a lot of that. It's really high tension. You're kind of fighting for your life, and so if you can make it through that, then you find out that you're really trapped in this place with 9 other people, and your goal is to open this number 9 door, which will only open once, and it'll only stay open for a very short period of time, and only people who have gotten enough points in the game can go through the door. So if just a single person has, of course you need 9 points, they can go through the door. But if everybody had 9 points, everybody could go through the door. So it's really interesting. I don't want to give too much away, but there's a system by which the characters can like ally or betray with each other, and the characters are also kind of randomly assigned into groups that will go and they'll solve puzzles, like the puzzle room that you were in originally. And based on who you're partnered with and the choices that you make in the game, it will determine kind of how people choose to ally or betray, and how your points will tally. So you need to go through the game in all of these different scenarios, trying to get 9 points and trying to get yourself out or get everybody out, or trying to get the best ending that you can. And it's very engaging and intriguing. It really sucks you in, and I really enjoyed it. It's one of those things where the way that the story plays out is actually quite different than I was expecting. I've played at this point a number of these kind of story-based games where you have multiple routes so that you can lead to different endings, and this game has something like, I don't remember. I mean, there's definitely an ending for each character. Plus, there's a whole bunch of bad endings and sort of dead ends and places where it's like to be continued. And I'm just like, what? I mean, the first time I played through it, I had to, I basically wasn't able to get to an ending that was actually an ending, even though I figured that I was going to. So it's structured a little bit differently than a lot of these kind of games. But one of the cool things is that you can jump to any point in the hierarchy, the tree of branches of how the story branches, and play that part starting from wherever you want if you've played that part already. So that does help you when you're trying to kind of unlock all the routes. And another unique thing about it is that you will get endings, and they will help inform you as to sort of the overall story and give you a complete arc for, let's say, maybe a character. But in order to really get the whole story, you have to play through the whole game. You have to play through all of the storylines. That really wasn't something I was expecting at first, and I hope that's not giving too much away, but just be prepared for that, I suppose, because I wasn't, and I struggled with that a little bit. But once you're okay with that, it's really a great game, and I recommend anybody that even thinks the premise is remotely interesting, it's worth checking out. And this is a sequel to 999, which was on the DS, which I picked up recently as well. So moving on from that, I just beat it, but a few weeks ago I beat Tomb Raider. Didn't get a platinum in this, but I did do a lot of the collection stuff, and I definitely beat the game on normal, I guess. And it was a lot of fun. I guess for a reboot, I think it's probably one of the best kind of reboots that I could think of. It was just a lot of fun to play, and a lot of the things that I was afraid of happening in the game didn't happen. But then again, I'm not a huge Tomb Raider fan either, so I'm actually somebody, I guess, who was looking for Tomb Raider to go in a slightly different direction, because I haven't really been a convert. The first game seemed really cool, and I remember playing the second one with some friends back in the day, and of course I've got them on the Dreamcast and stuff like that, but I just haven't played a whole lot of them. It was always a little frustrating, all the jumping, platforming, puzzling, dying over and over again. In this Tomb Raider, really, I did not die very much. A few times, 2 or 3 times anyway. And you can miss QuickTime events essentially and perish, but there isn't a big penalty for it. What I like about it is the core game, I think, is fun, and it essentially involves a lot of you're doing collecting of items and hunting and stuff like that for points, so that you can upgrade your character along an upgrade path, which is essentially linear. You can assign your upgrade points to whatever sort of things you want in terms of kind of skills and weapons. So you have your bow and pistols and shotgun and all that stuff, but they are kind of capped. So there is parts of the story where you will get the parts that you need for upgrading your shotgun to the next level at a certain point in the story or in the gameplay, because a particular character will drop it. So you're kind of capped from getting that previous to that. But the whole game is sort of structured around being able to move back and forth between the levels so that you can warp essentially back to a previous level farm that for items and points. You can get more of this salvage, and you can you actually have skills that you can get that will give you more salvage from from hunting or that sort of thing. And you can go back and do challenges in terms of like there's challenges per board, plus there's different like items that you can collect, and all of that stuff kind of gets you like advances your experience and stuff like that. So it all works together very well to create this series of interconnected levels that you can sort of enjoy going through and collecting the stuff that you need to progress through the game. So I found that part very engaging. And in addition to that, it was, just again the core play I thought was fun. It definitely had the jumping and puzzling your way through the environment, like kind of environmental style puzzles, which I thought were fun. And I thought the voice acting and the acting and the character. I mean, the characters were a little bit shallow. Like all of the side characters were not all that interesting. But the story was kind of good enough that I just enjoyed it all the way through. And it wasn't too much of what I was afraid of, and it was a lot more of what I found enjoyable. The big gripe that I have was actually in the combat when you had this like third-person action shooting parts, because I think my big trouble with it is that I'm such a Resident Evil fan that I was trying to play those parts like a Resident Evil game, because it reminds me of Resident Evil a bit when you're playing third-person shooting. But what I'm not used to, because zombies don't have guns typically. Some of the newer games that's changed up a little bit, but for some reason still you're able to play it differently than other third-person shooters, I think. So Tomb Raider, the trouble I was having was I would always react to enemies that were within a closer proximity to me, because you normally don't have to worry about enemies that are further away from you in Resident Evil games, because they're not, until they get getting up close to you, they're not a threat. But so constantly I wasn't paying so much attention to like where I was in relation to far away enemies, because I just didn't think that was a concern. But of course it is. It's very important, because they're shooting at you and throwing grenades at you. And I found it extremely frustrating to engage in that combat until I realized what I was doing, and I said, okay, I'm sure a lot of people have played a lot of third-person and first-person shooters where you need to be very aware of where you are in relation to enemies that are far away from you, and you need to use your cover. I'm not used to this cover-based shooting thing. It really throws me off. So mostly what I was doing was like meleeing enemies close to me, and just sort of trying to pick people off with headshots, and just doing a lot of like the kind of stuff that you would do in Resident Evil. And it was very hard to play the action sequences like that. But and consequently, I mean, even when I came around to that and said, okay, I need to play these action sequences differently, they were hard, and some of them I wasn't as fond of. Like, they really ramped it up in like the last half of the game, and I found that less enjoyable by far than just, kind of the pace of things when it was a little more stealth-oriented, I think, and I think that was more fun. But the latter half of the game, too, is still fun, because it still has the environmental puzzling and challenging and stuff like that. So it's just a really fun game. I mean, I beat it in like 2 or 3 days. It didn't take me too long, and I'm not going to play multiplayer or any of that stuff. It was kind of a good pick up and play for a couple days experience, and I really had fun with it. So Tomb Raider, very happy to have checked that out. And Hyperdimension Neptunia Victory came out, and so I was very excited about that. So of course I sat down and really dug into this, and it's funny, I guess Seal No Surge is probably a good example of a game that I do this with a lot of games where, like, I bought Seal No Surge and I'm probably gonna play it someday, but I just don't play games when I first get them a lot. I mean, usually I'll pop them in and then I'll just be like, yeah, I don't really feel like playing this right now, and then I'll go play something I do feel like playing. And then when I feel like playing it, I'll play it. Neptunia Victory, I think just because I was so primed with Hyperdimension Neptunia Mark II, I just dove right into it, and it's been a blast. I've really enjoyed it. So I will admit, at first, it was a little off-putting because I think even now, and I'm only partway through the game, although I've sunk seriously, like, I think 40 hours into the game so far, and I'll explain why that is. But it just doesn't seem as good as Mark II. For starters, I liked the characters in Mark II. It was a completely different cast of characters because it was all the handheld systems kind of. So it was Nepgear and Uni and all that stuff. This one has like Neptune and Noir and the other sort of the adult consoles. So it's different in that respect, and I think I liked the other characters more. I mean, maybe it's just Neptune kind of grates on me. Like, I don't really find her saying awesome sauce all the time, like, that entertaining, and so maybe I just sort of liked Nepgear's more, like, sort of diligent character, and the interplay between her and the other characters more than I do the interplay between, like, Neptune and this different cast of characters. I don't know if that's a reflection on the writing itself. It's a little hard for me to tell if it's the characters or the writing itself, but I definitely feel like the whole story element of it has taken a little bit of a hit in this one versus the second one, because I enjoyed the story and the humor and the characters in the last game. But that said, this is certainly not bad in that regard. It's just not exemplary. But what I do still enjoy very much about this is the gameplay, and of course just the premise and the atmosphere and the kind of the cheerfulness of it. I really enjoy as well. But the gameplay is interesting, and it's been tweaked again quite significantly, I feel like, in terms of how it plays. So the battle system is very similar, but you have this very different dynamic where you spend a whole lot more time in the levels. So it feels like Mark II, they really made it so you were encouraged to kind of blow through one playthrough and then play it again, and your characters are stronger, and you can sort of go through again and do some of the stuff you weren't able to do the last time and get a different ending, etc., etc. This time around, it seems like you're being encouraged more to like kind of hang out and complete a whole bunch of stuff in the levels before you progress. Grinding to like your level is pretty important in this. Like you'll find right away. I mean, as soon as you get to like chapter 2 or 3 or 4, you'll just run into the boss that is way more powerful than you can beat without cranking yourself up 5-10 levels, something like that. So that could feel really crummy, but somehow they made that whole situation interesting. So one of the things they did is they made it so when you get to the end of a board, you get evaluated on how well you did on several different things. One is how many enemies you fought. The other thing is like how many quests you completed. And I'm actually going to forget what these are, but it's stuff like that. So it's how many quests you completed, how many enemies you fought. I forget what the other two things are, but it's how well you used your scouts, that kind of thing. So they're basically encouraging you to do all of this stuff before you advance in your game, and you don't have to do any of that in particular, but you get bonuses if you do. And I think it's really the scout system that changes the game pretty significantly. So the cool thing about the scout system is you have scouts, you send them out to a board, and I mean you send them out to multiple boards, you can send them all to the same board, whatever you want to do. You can have them set up to like just do this over and over. And it's based on how many steps you take, which is not like how much you walk in the game, but it's sort of like how far away your dungeons are. So if you have one dungeon that is essentially takes like 2 days to explore, then if you travel to that dungeon, that sort of eats up 2 days worth of time, and your scouts will work on that amount of time. So if you send them to a dungeon that takes 2 days to explore, then they'll take 2 days to explore it. So if you then visit that same dungeon you sent them to explore, the 2 days will pass. Leave the dungeon and check the status of your scouts, and they'll say, hey, I had a chance to check this dungeon, here's like what I found. And then they have a rest period, so say their rest period is 2 days, you could just travel back to that same dungeon that's sort of 2 days away, then come back out, and your scout will have been done resting, and then they'll go and they'll, scout the dungeon again. And so you can set them up to do this, and what they'll find is they'll find things for you. So they can find items, they can find new areas that some things will just give you items or experience or that kind of thing. They'll find gold, which is obviously useful, although you're spending gold to send the scouts out, so it's not so much a way to like amass wealth, at least earlier in the game. But the big thing that they do is they change like item drops or item like items that you can harvest, and they change monsters so that you can get these powerful monsters in the game. So in addition to that, they have this disc creation system, which they've had in the other games. But in order to create the discs, you actually acquire the materials from these powerful monsters that your scouts can find. So I find that what I end up doing is, sending my scouts out, having them find some big monster. Like, I'm always wanting to increase my levels and just sort of grind the regular enemies, pretty much so I can be strong enough to fight these big monsters, which is fun in and of itself. So then you really want to fight them, and then you get these medals from them, which you can then use to create your discs, which I think the way that they did it is going to make you a little bit neurotic, I think, because each disc can only be used once, and you can only get a certain number of discs. So I think that it makes it so you're not as apt to really want to experiment with making the discs as much, just because it feels like you could, oh, what if I make the wrong disc and then I can't go back and make a better disc, So I think they could have done that a little bit differently, but it's just been a blast. I've been really enjoying it. So I'm on level 4 right now, chapter 4, and I'm up to like about level 40. So I'm just having a lot of fun with it, but it's a big time sink. I've enjoyed it, but I've been spending a lot of time with it. So one thing I did in the last game is I actually bought one piece of DLC. They kind of got me, because at a certain point in the game, I was using Uni a lot as my leader, and I just wanted my character to be a little bit stronger, and I purchased her personal weapon. And it was a good weapon, so it was fun to play with. And I'm finding that, I'm not necessarily against DLC if it works in a way that doesn't take away from the game and doesn't, feel like people are robbing you of money that you shouldn't be spending. So I think they're starting to find a little bit of a balance with some of these games, and Hyperdimension Neptunia Victory in particular, I think it's pretty good with this, where if you have time and you want to spend the time playing this game, you can just enjoy it, dumping a whole bunch of time into it. And I've done that. I mean, I've played about 40 hours so far, and I've enjoyed every second of it. But I've gotten to the point where I'm like, that DLC weapon I had last time was pretty useful. And one of my friends actually went ahead and got a couple of the DLC weapons, and they cost $1 each. And I mean, he was telling me, like, he was way behind me, and then he shot up to, like, he's in the 60s now or something, just because he got, like, a few of the main weapons, and he got, I think, the defense pack. So it has, like, some armor in the defense pack, and then I think he got, like, the weapons for, like, 3 of the main characters. And he's now going into dungeons that, you know, we've unlocked, like with scouts, but that have been too hard for us to play, even for me at level 40. But with these new weapons, you know, you can just kind of go in there and you can actually stand a chance in some of these major dungeons, and then you get massive XP, and you can super power level and stuff. And it's kind of that money versus time thing. And we're talking a small investment. He essentially spent $4, and it's completely changed his experience of playing the game, you know, as an adult who doesn't want to mess around with this stuff all the time. So I think it really accommodates those sort of different play styles. If you want to spend a couple bucks and you know, and have a little bit of a different experience where you can level really quickly and sort of just have fun with the game, you can do that. If you really want to kind of grind and put the time in, you can do that. Either or. So I'm at the point now where I've been having a blast with the game, but I am feeling like I've put enough time in that I want to see you know, what it's like with some of the DLC weapons and armor and stuff like that. I think it might be fun to just get that and, you know, just have some fun doing some additional, maybe kind of super power leveling and just get through the story and kind of enjoy myself for the rest of the game. So that's probably what I'm going to do. But I'm just having a ball with it. And I think, you know, if you liked the last games, you should, you know, just definitely check out Hyperdimension Neptunia Victory. I might do a review on this like I did with the last game, so, you know, look forward to that. I apologize that there's not gameplay, you know, from these games here. Maybe I'll put some screenshots in or something like that, I don't know. But I just wanted to talk about those games. That's what I've been playing, and always having a great time. Definitely have been enjoying the games I've been playing. A lot of cool stuff coming out, so looking forward to playing some new stuff, some Japanese stuff, and old stuff. You know, gotta love it. So I hope you'll join me for that, and thanks for watching. I'll catch you again next time.